Hey, it's Total Schmidt Show. Welcome to Tuesday night, man. 6 o'clock. This is how we roll. You know, if you watch the show, I'm here every Tuesday, and I'm here now. Tonight, shit. What's the right way to say your name? Tim Homayoon? Homayoon. Let's try that again. Homayoon. Hey, welcome to Total Schmidt Show. What? I'm losing my thing. Hey, welcome to Total Schmidt Show, 6 o'clock, Tuesday night. You know the drill. If you watch the show, I'm here every Tuesday at 6. I talk to comics, entertainers when I travel, blah, blah, blah. Today, Tim Homayoon, good friend of mine. Just met him. Anyway, he's on the show today, and we're going to talk to him. So buckle up. Hey, welcome to Total Schmidt Show. How you doing? I'm back at sea. Here's what you're going to get from this show. It's kind of like quarantine comedy, except I'm not going to be home. Actually, it's kind of like quarantine comedy and a combination of all the stuff I've done online over the last year or so. There's sketch stuff, live stuff, stand-up stuff, travel stuff, and of course, conversations with others who do the same things that I do on a daily basis. That's it. That's the whole show. Then I'm going to record it all and put it on the intraweb. Sometimes. Usually late. Always late. Maybe. I don't know. And weekly? Nah, maybe. Sort of. Could be. Either way, sit back. I hope you enjoy whatever the hell it is I put together for this week on Total Schmidt Show. Hey, guys. Welcome to Total Schmidt Show. How's it going? It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday here. Do me a favor. If you watch the show all the time, thank you for coming back. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that. We talk to comics and entertainers, and I travel pretty much all over the place. Above me on each side, you'll see a little my socials up here, I think, and then you'll see my YouTube thing over here. Whichever way I edit them in after the show, that's the way we're going to do it. So follow the show, like the show, subscribe to the channel. It costs you absolutely $0 to do that, and the more subscribers I have, the more it helps me out. And I'm on a ship on my way back to, we're doing a crossing. I'm working with Tim Homayoon. Here he is. Look, there he is.
Hey.
Hey, look, Tim Homayoon, who I, by the way, just found out I'm working with next week on another ship.
We're stuck together.
I had no clue, dude. I got the email today. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know when that never happens. I work with somebody, I usually never see them for 7 months.
Yeah, well, good thing we got along, because that would suck if we were
been
fighting and then we're like, well, I'll never see this guy again.
Yeah, thank God. What a prick. And I get the email, go, mother. So, whatever, man. How you doing?
Good. Yeah. Doing good.
Thanks. This is the very first time I'm working with you. You've been another guy that's been around forever.
Yeah.
It's funny how many times I run into a guy on a ship that I've never known.
It's funny how we'll know, people from back in the day, but
yeah.
Well,
how many guys you know from YouTube and shit, and you don't know them, then you finally work with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and we're done working now. We're off.
Yeah,
we got dinner
our
tonight.
One day off.
That's great. I'll take it, dude. I'll take the day off.
Yeah.
And then next week you go right back to Mexico again next week.
Yeah.
Flying back to Puerto Vallarta. So Jersey originally?
New York.
Oh, New York. Okay.
New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, originally Long Island. Back, I started comedy in early '90s when it was, of course I missed the boom that every comedian talked about, the '80s, but back then there was 7 comedy clubs in Long Island alone. So it was literally one of the meccas, because you had Long Island and Manhattan, and of course you can drive up to Boston. You got Jersey, Connecticut. You had everything back then. It was great, and then it just slowly dried up. And
we started around the same time, dude. I always tell a story. I started right at the end of the boom, where I was featuring, and I was making really good money. As a feature, like great money. It was making like $1,200-$1,300 in Chicago. We had 6 A rooms.
Yeah.
In Chicago, I started in LA, but came back to Chicago, and then I got bumped up to headline, and I was making 15. That's when they adjusted.
Yeah.
And all the guys were making $4 or $5 grand, and suddenly they cut it, and everything just climbed. And then Chicago went down to 4 rooms, then 3, then 2, then 3, and then
dwindled.
And if you lived in that Midwest area, you had all that shit. You could drive to Indiana. All those one-nighters everywhere, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, but it was the back end. So I just missed everything.
Yeah.
I just missed the end of the boom. I just missed the end of the Seinfeld development deal things when they were giving those away to comics fucking, like M&Ms.
Yeah.
And I moved to LA right after that. So
yeah, there was so much. Yeah, people getting deals. I remember in Montreal, I used to have Variety magazine and just see, oh, this guy got a deal before he even showcased.
Right. Yeah.
Because it just, it was a bidding war.
It was a mad rush.
Yeah.
Guys would show up just on based of word of mouth. Guys were getting deals like crazy.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to LA, I was like, man, I'm going to get a deal. That'll be great. I can't wait. And then, I just missed the window on all that shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I started in high school. And the funny thing was, my dad was very against it. You know, they thought it was just a stupid thing. But I got out of high school early to do comedy because they thought I was a genius because I've 3 older brothers. So I used to keep their a small school in the middle of Suffolk County, way out there. So I would keep their tests. I got perfect scores. And they're like, this guy's a genius. And, you know, so then there was a thing called Mathletes, which was a math competition. And
I remember Mathletes. I remember those.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
was never in Mathletes.
well,
I'm no genius.
yeah, I didn't think nothing of it, but they said, hey, we need at least one person to join, or else we're gonna have to cancel it. So I'm like, screw it. I joined. I won 5 years in a row because no one else joined. So they're like, man, this guy's got perfect scores. He's a Mathletes champion. Man, they put me above my brothers. I literally went above my brothers, so I had to cheat just to survive. But I got out of high school early. That's how I started. I mean, dabbled in comedy, but that's what, like, okay, now I'm gonna do the road. But you know, of course, I was bad then. And the funny thing with me was, on Long Island, the big thing is to get a gig in the city, or you know, of course, road gigs. But my dad used to get mad because I say, hey, you know, because in Suffolk County, you're way out in Long Island, so we were 60 miles from the city. So if I had a gig in the city, you have to drive a half hour to the train. Then you got to take a train for an hour, maybe transfer. Then you got to get in the city. Then you got to take a subway. It was just a whole pain. You know, my family was scared of it, but yeah, and you had to pay. You had to pay for the train. You had to pay for the gas. I had a station wagon, you know. And my dad used to, how much you getting paid for the gig? And I go, no, I'm not getting paid. What? You're not getting paid? You know, like, he's not from the country. He's, you know, from Iran. So he's Iranian, cooks Filipino, speaks French. It's very weird.
Wow.
Anyway, because he lived in Montreal.
Dude,
yeah.
that's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
Dude, dinner had to be delicious.
Oh,
in your
yeah,
house.
yeah. And yeah, I love this Filipino chicken.
Dude, I'm a huge fan of Filipino food.
Oh,
Are you
yeah,
kidding me?
yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
My mom's Norwegian, cooks Italian because she grew up in Brooklyn and speaks to herself. Anyway, so my father, you know, he's very, you know, he was a doctor, and you know, my oldest brother's a lawyer, so they kind of like very, you know, comedy was like with the. Plus, I was very shy. You know, I was the youngest of 4 at the time for 11 years, and I plopped out 2 more. But so I would, you know, finally get a little show in the city, and you know, it'd be at Caroline's or something. So in your head, it was a big gig, but. So my father, how much you getting paid for that? And I go, well, I'm not getting paid anything. He goes, what? You're not getting paid nothing? You're spending this money? I go, no, actually, I have to pay them. You know?
Yeah, right.
I got to pay.
What? You're really losing. What?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you would have to pay, or you'd have to bring people. You know, it was horrible.
Right.
And, you know, so I always wanted a gig. I always, you know, I'm like, I got to get a gig. So there was a guy, you might know him, Tony Camacho.
Yeah.
Top Drawer Entertainment.
Of course, yeah.
Shout out
Everybody
to
knows Tony
Tony,
Camacho.
yeah, everybody knows Tony. So I meet Tony, and he, you know, he liked me. So send a tape. You know, he saw me at one of the clubs. So I had the VHS tapes back in the day, and I had my dual ones, and I make a tape. I sent it to him. He likes it. He goes, I got a club in Jersey, and you could maybe MC, which, you know, be my first road gig. It pays $200, get a hotel. Like, oh, this is the life.
Yeah.
This is the life. He
Yeah.
goes, I'm going to book you, you know, as soon as I get an opening, you know, the next round. And then I don't hear from him. So what the fuck, man? Man. A year goes by, 2 years go by. I said, man, what if do this? I finally see him. I said, hey, Tony, I thought you were going to book me. He goes, I did. I tried. I called. Your father answered and said, how much is the gig? And I told him 200. He said, that's not enough.
No, you serious?
Yeah,
No.
he canceled my gig. I said, what the fuck?
No. Dude, that's the worst.
My dad was my agent.
Your dad was your agent, and not a good one early on either.
He just hung up he said he hung up the phone.
Not enough.
Yeah, because he told him I want more money for my son, and Tony's like, oh, no, and it's like it was my
Click.
dad hung up on.
Oh, dude, that's fucked up. That's hilarious. Dude, I used to do those shows with my ex. I think we talked a little bit about this the other day. My ex used to give me shit all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because they were in LA, because we lived in LA, and they're all free gigs.
Yeah.
You know, most of them, until you get to be a regular at the Improv, and then, you know, it's $15 or whatever it is. You don't really get paid, or 25 or 50 or whatever. But I did gigs all the time, and I did open mics like crazy. And even at the time, I was working. You know, I met my wife after I've been working the road for 15 years. And so, and then we got married, moved to LA. And I would go out and do a gig. She go, how much you getting paid tonight? I go, I'm not getting paid at the
Yeah.
Improv. And she would get so mad.
Yeah.
I go, you don't understand how it works, man. You got to
Yeah.
get out scene and do the thing. And sometimes you don't get paid. Sometimes you do. And some people don't wrap their head around the same thing. But it's almost like with your dad. It's almost like paying for college.
Yeah.
You know, wage.
Yeah,
you know what I
he
mean?
doesn't understand. Yeah, because I said it. You got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
Yeah, they don't just give you a bunch of money right off
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah.
You know, and
You got 5 minutes. You should be getting $500.
Yeah.
Like, I have no clue.
Yeah, there's a million guys that have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That will do it for 50.
Yeah. And I was real bad back then. You know, like a lot of comics, I was a dumb kid, and I remember I was so young. My brother Eric used to have to drive me to the gigs and or the open mics and whatnot. And to this day, he remembers there was one gig where it was all bikers, and they were rough. And I used to do this horrible gig about, I don't know why, I don't remember the exact joke, but I don't know why they call men or women bitches, men are the dogs because they're the ones chasing the pussy. Something stupid,
Right.
Now I don't know what it is, but I said the men are the dogs, and a big biker stood up and said, "Fuck you," and the whole place went nuts. It just went crazy. And back then, I was so nervous, I used to keep my head down. I couldn't even look up at him.
Right.
So my brother goes, the way you lifted your head and you looked him right in the eyes and said, "Okay." And then you went right back down. The guy just stood there and goes, "All right." And he goes, you shut him right up. That was amazing how you dealt with that heckler.
Dude, it's a heckling technique you should keep forever.
I know.
That's brilliant. That's going to throw him off.
Yeah. And I don't want to brag, but I think I set the record. I was the only comic ever to be booed off 3 times in one night. So, and
I don't know if that is bragging.
Well, like I always say, like you get booed off once, it happened. Every comic gets booed off. You get booed off twice, you suck.
Yeah.
But if you get a booed off 3 times, that's talent right there.
Dude, that's rough, man.
Oh yeah. Well, some of them I knew because I used to do the Apollo. I don't know if you knew about.
Yeah, no,
back
dude,
then, back then the Apollo. I was just happy to do it, and I used to get booed off. And then there's a guy, Joey Cola, really great guy.
I heard Joey Cola, yeah.
Amazing comic. I mean, and I was real skinny in like college when I started doing the Apollo. I was like 117 pounds. I had intestinal problems. So I was even Elvis at Shea Stadium once. They called me anorexic Elvis. It's a long story, But so I used to get booed off, and I used to have this thing where I would say, "You don't want to mess with me. I may be only 5'8", 117 pounds, but it's all muscle." And Joey goes, "No, switch it." So he goes, "You got to get aggressive with them." So I come out, and I always got booed off. And then I go there, I go, "You don't want to mess with me," and they go, "Oh," back then it was 1,500. Black guys, they were aggressive. Like they would boo you. They would stand and boo. They would get a standing booing ovation.
Standing booing ovation.
I mean, they would, as soon as you come out there, and the host knew, he would like, "Good luck." He knew,
Yeah.
So I came out. I said, "You don't want to mess with me," and they go, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, I might be only 5'8", 117 pounds, but it's all cock." And they went nuts. And all of a sudden, I was like, I don't even know how to follow it.
Right.
So, but they were going crazy, and they're high fiving other. I was like, "Oh shit, I don't know what to do." So I start dancing around like Hulk Hogan. I'm doing this with the, and all of a sudden the siren goes off, and I said, "No, I broke through. I finally got through," and it gave me the siren.
Yeah.
And then the Sandman comes. If anyone knows the Sandman, he comes and grabs me, puts me over his shoulder, and he sweeps. It goes off.
Right.
And then I get off. I said, "What? I thought I did good." And I go, "You can't say cock at the Apollo." I said, I didn't know. Nobody told me. There's little kids dancing, like twerking, like.
Yeah.
But you can't say cock. You can't do that,
That's a great rule they have. That you can't say cock.
Yeah.
But you get booed profusely.
Oh yeah. I don't mind that. Yeah, I had a couple. I had one where there was. I lived in a town, Bayport, really small town, where we literally had to add it was Bayport Blue Point, the town next to us. We had to combine the schools. Like when I graduated early, I did mid-year because I didn't want to graduate with my brother right above me. So there was 6 kids in our graduation. I mean, we were in the library. They're in study hall, and they told us, "Hey, don't throw your hat off because the ceiling fans." Anyway, so that's so I performed in Patchogue, which is the next town over, and I had an outdoor thing, and you got to be clean, and it was just an outdoor, like people doing music. It was like an open mic but outdoors, and and everyone's on blankets and everything, and just an outdoor stage, and everything's, and I'm doing my set. I'm kind of bombing and whatever, but you're just happy to get the words out. And there was these teenagers that were heckling me, and I was getting pissed off. And I started, I used to have a lot of heckle lines back then. I was known to get, I have all the hack ones, and then I have my own, and so I was trying to rip on them, and then they would run behind me, behind the stage, so I can't see them, and I had balls of duct tape, and they started throwing them at me, and they're hitting me with the balls of duct tape, and first of all, they're flying by me, and they're hitting me in the back, so I'm trying to look like both ways, and I'm getting really angry. And then, they're coming on this side, flinging by me. And finally, a little kid on a blanket gets off, like 5 years old, and just runs up to the stage and goes, "Get off the stage!" And I go, "Fucking blow me, a little shit." I just snapped. Like I was supposed to be clean, but I just had enough. I'm not going to have a 5-year-old tell me to get off.
5-year-old kid.
So I go, "Fucking blow me, a little shit." And he goes, "I wasn't talking to you. I'm talking to the guy behind."
Oh,
And there's a guy sweeping up the balls of duct tape behind me.
Oh, no.
Boom, I'm booed off. That was one booing. And then literally they go, "Hey, we got to escort you out because the kid's father wants to talk to you."
Yeah,
let's
great.
kick the shit out of you. So I was like, okay.
Great. Well,
but there was a lot of those kind of shit gigs.
Jesus, dude. I've never gotten booed off stage, but I've done a lot of shows to silence early on. I did a lot of shows where there was no reaction.
Yeah.
Those are the worst. I'd rather get booed almost than just.
Oh, yeah. I remember there was a club, Boston Comedy Club used to have their I don't know, it was Urban Night or whatever, Black Night, and they go, "Don't boo. It's not the Apollo. Don't boo.
Right.
Just stare at him."
Right.
It was worse. When I got booed at the Apollo, I knew, okay, I got booed. But when it did there, and they just stare at you like, oh shit, that's you hear a pin drop, and it just you hear a cough or something. You're like, oh man.
There was a club in Chicago I used to work. I think I told the story before. It's called TNT Comedy Hook, and it was a black club, but it was older. It was like before Def Comedy was huge.
Yeah.
Before Def come out. And I used to kill in that room. I used to be great. It was, there were people that were my age, or families, or a parent, couples. It was just regular, working people that were in there. And then when Def Comedy came out, it was all this younger vibe of they were expected Def Comedy, and I wasn't Def Comedy. I just did stuff about my family. But there was a thing that in that club they would shake keys on a table if they didn't like you. And you would hear them coming. I'd be walking to the stage, and you would hear. I mean, I wouldn't even get a joke out. I'm like, shouldn't I get a joke out at some point? Shouldn't I do something? But yeah, but I always hated that. I hated performing to silence, man. That always drove me. That drove me absolutely crazy. I did one night. I was doing the Comedy Store, and Dice was there. And Dice was huge.
Oh yeah.
And I'm in the OR, and he's in the main room, right? So, and I'm really green, bro. I'm maybe 2 years in.
Yeah.
And I go up, and right before I go on stage, Dice finishes up in the main room, and they come up and they go, "Dice wants to go up and do some time, so he's gonna go up before you." And I go, "Fuck, why? He killed for 40 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, so I sit in the back of the room, and he goes up and destroys the OR and just kills. So he leaves, and they bring me up, not only silence, but then people leaving in droves because Dice is done. So and it's only 5 minutes, but it's the longest 5 minutes ever as people are just leaving, and
because that's the worst feeling. Not only if you get booed or you're bombing, but to have people just get up and leave in front of you, like
with a look of disgust or annoyance. They're like, "There's anything better to do right now than listen to this guy." And then afterwards, when I left, I remember the MC was a real dick. I can't remember his name, but he just shrugs. He goes, "It's not for everybody." And I walked out the door, and I was so mad. I'm like, "You asshole!" I was so angry. But I remember thinking, it was like Dice. I'm like, why? I get it now. I go, why not? Because he was at the time, he was the superstar. And he was he was the number one guy in the whole world. Everybody loved Dice. Every open mic comic, most of them were all little knockoffs of fucking Dice. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a leather jacket and they're smoking, and you're watching these guys. You're like, fuck, is there anybody original in this fucking room at all? And I thought, and even Mitzi was there. Mitzi saw me a couple times. Mitzi turned me down 3 times, I think. And one time she looked at me almost like she was disgusted with me. And I thought I had a pretty good set. I was running that time. I go, I think this was the one. And I go, "Hey, Mitzi, how are you?" And she just walked away from me. And I was like, fuck. Damn, I thought I was in.
So. I dealt with her once, and I was excited. I knew about her. I was 20 at the time. I went out for a wedding. I stayed in L.A. for a couple months, and you would probably know as a comedian John Mulrooney.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
John well. He's
yeah,
a cop.
yeah,
He's in New York now, I think.
yeah. John Mulrooney, for people that don't know, he was a big comic
He
in
was
the
giant. Actually had a
80s.
huge Fox deal and all kinds
Oh
of
yeah,
shit for a
huge.
while.
Yeah, he made a lot. He was great. Him and so he kind of took me under his wing and helped me because he goes, he had problems with his father too. He kind of knew, and I used to say, I go, because I used to open for him and Richard Jenny. I said, you and Jenny have the best stage. I mean, not only material, but I go, you guys are so comfortable up there. He goes, yeah, Richard was my roommate. I said, what the fuck? Like they were roommates. But so he helped me out. So he brought me to the Comedy Store, and he's sitting with Don Irera. So these are two legendary comics, and I'm sitting here, the two of them, and they're working on a sitcom. So I'm just listening. I'm not doing it. So John goes, hey. I talked to Mitzi. You're going to do 3 minutes in front of her. Just relax, and then we're going to leave because it's before the show. So I'm just staying there. I'm waiting and waiting. John goes to talk to Mitzi, and then Mitzi comes, and I see her walking over to me, and I'm real nervous because I'm like, "What is this? A legendary woman? This Comedy Store, and maybe my career. Maybe she's
This
all
could be it. This could
excited."
be my moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and she goes, "You're in my chair. Get out of my. That's where I watch the comics. Go sit over there." And I said, "Oh shit."
Oh, great.
And of course, like you said, people, Howie Mandel stopped it. Like literally, they tap me and they go, "Howie's going to go on in front of you," and just destroys the place.
Right.
And he gets a standing ovation, and Mitzi walks out with him, and I do 3 minutes, and they literally the guy with a keyboard. So you're like, "Is that part of my time?" He's doing an intro. Like, was that what do I got? 2.5 minutes now?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I don't know.
You're biting into my time, pal.
Yeah.
Let's cut it out. Do you used to do there's a club in LA. This guys used to go. I mean, there's a place called the Haha.
Yeah.
And I go there a bunch of times, and I'm there one time, and Damon used to come in there. Damon Wayne used to come to work on material, which is great. But when Damon would work on material, he would go up and do like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of those guys that go forever.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm there, and I'm getting ready to go up, and somebody comes up and goes, "Damon's going to go up before you." I go, "Fuck." And I kind of knew Damon a little bit. I knew of him. And we had met a couple times, and I had friends there, right? And I go, and I had at the time we just had a baby, I think, too. So I was doing a deal where I was going home at midnight and feeding the baby after the open mics or whatever. So I just went up to Damon. I goes, "Hey, Damon, do me a favor." I go, "Can I go before you? Because I got to get out of here, and I got a baby at home." And he was like, "Yeah, go ahead, man, no problem." So he flipped with me. Would probably save me 2 hours that night.
Yeah.
And he was cool about it because because that's how he finds his material. He goes up, he talks for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I always liked, like, if I didn't go up, if I didn't have stuff to do, a lot of times I would sit and watch him.
Yeah.
I was always intrigued. Like, I don't understand guys that do an hour or 2 hours on stage. I don't know. I don't want to do that much time.
Yeah.
Like, I do about 55 when I headline, and I'm good. Maybe an hour. But I like to watch these guys. Like Chris Rock was doing the same thing, and more Chappelle, of course, is different. But I like to watch. Damon was the best at it. He would do 2 hours of just fucking anything.
Yeah.
And then you would see it later as a 22-minute bit.
Yeah.
And you were like, "That's all this shit he's been working on for the last few months." And it was just his process is brilliant.
Well, it's interesting. I remember talking about the Haha. I remember he popped in, and he was doing that. He was doing a spot. We all kind of got pushed, but I'm like, man, it was real raw.
Yeah.
He was talking about, I don't know if he had diabetes or something, and just how he cheated on his wife or something, like real, like how he's a bad person. He's trying to redeem and stuff.
Yeah.
But he would interject. It was kind of like a one-man show, but he would interject. You could tell maybe he was ad-libbing, but he was interject.
He was exploring on stage. It's cool to watch. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he started getting heckled. I'm like, who the fuck's going to heckle Damon Wayne? And then I look, it's Marlon. It's Marlon. Wait. And I see they're videotaping in the back, and I said, "Oh, that's kind of weird." But then who goes on next is Marlon. And then Marlon would go on, and then Damon would heckle him.
Right.
And I was realizing they were kind of tilting them, so they have to, it wasn't just like, "You suck." Well, why'd you do that shit? You shouldn't. Like, it just sounded like a heckler. But it was trying to get them off so they can kind of ad-lib this way to kind of rock the boat of their mind. I saw him the next day and he incorporated some of that material. And
Yeah.
like you
Oh,
said,
that's really
it just
clever.
got tighter. I go, I never seen that before.
That's
That was
really
amazing. I was
that's
like,
really
wow.
clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool because I've seen Damon do that process for years, and I always thought it was really great. But they have that's cool because then they talk afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And they
And they
kind of get them back
videotaped
on
it,
the
and
subject.
they were saying, yeah, they watched the video and they kind of, I guess, take note. I was like, wow,
Fuck, that's brilliant. That's
that's
really
like
smart way
old
to
school.
develop.
Like, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I missed that. I got to. I was gonna too. I was gonna mention to you. I'm hosting and this woman. I met this. I was dating. Well, we dated for a bit. We only went out once or twice, but she owns a bar in L.A.
Mhm.
and she does an open mic on Mondays.
Mhm.
And she's been bugging me to come by forever. I'm just never home.
Yeah.
But I'm hosting an MC there. I'm hosting an open mic there
Mhm.
on February 13th. So, and I'm gonna bring like I worked on a lot of new stuff this week, and the 2 weeks before that gig, I'm on the Bliss, so I can work on a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
Then. So, but I'm gonna do it for the same reason. I want to go up and work on new material.
Yeah.
So, if you're in town, I was gonna ask you anyway. If you're in town on that day and you want to come in and just work on some shit, I'm
Yeah,
reaching
yeah.
out to comics I know that work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's about a handful of guys I know that want to come in and work on stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not all brand new.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, because then I can only do it from 7 to like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I literally fly that night. I have a flight
Yeah.
at 1, and then I take off. So I told her, I go, look, I'll host it, but I want to be out there by 10.
Yeah.
So then the first 3 hours is gonna be comics I know that'll work on new material that are working comics, which I think
Yeah.
would be great.
Well, that's what I think is why I kind of got out of the open mics, which see stuff like that I would like because I know someone. Like I remember in before I moved to LA, my ex-wife's a comedian, so we were anyway we were fighting before we were getting divorced, so we were going to therapy, couples counseling and whatnot. So what I would do is I would go from therapy to an open mic
Right.
and talk about what I did in therapy and
Oh,
try
really?
and explore it. But
Right.
it was all these shitty open micers
Right.
who could give 2 fucks, and the guys would heckle me. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a fucking, and it was so bad to go, because I know you get so many open micers now, like, and they know each other because they do other open mics, so they always treated me like shit. And I remember saying, yeah, they wouldn't treat me like shit if I wore a shirt that said I book rooms. They'd all of a sudden
Yeah.
kiss
Right.
your ass. But I mean, it was so bad. One time they go, hey, you got 2 minutes. I said, what? 2 minutes? I said, kind of. I go,
Right.
can I do a little? They can do 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's all I can put. I go, holy shit.
Yeah.
I go, it's fucking. That's,
Well, I started because I like open mic. I like
Yeah.
that, but I did the same thing. I went through a couple of them that were like a sign in at midnight in Koreatown, some other ones,
Yeah.
but they did the same thing. They're like 2 minutes or whatever, and I stopped doing them. So now I do like I'll do the shows. Like if I know someone that books it, I'll come in, but only like I got to do. I want 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
yeah, make it worth it.
Yeah, I'm not doing 5 minutes. That just makes no sense. And
Yeah.
and then I'm not mad, but if you're
Right.
gonna book me 5 minutes, I'm just not gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I focus on the ones like there's not enough rooms in LA where you could go on and work on shit. When I started, I used to host a place in Malibu called Trancas. I don't know if you ever did it. It was
No.
run on PCH, and but the cool thing was it was right by Sam Kinnison's house,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was when Sam was huge, and that's where I met Carl LeBone, Jimmy Schubert, and all these
Oh,
other
yeah,
guys. And they would come in and work on shit, and that was my first taste of watching professionals
No,
work
yeah,
on their
yeah,
act.
yeah.
And I was mesmerized by that process. Like Carl and Jimmy were guys that would go on stage with ideas
Mhm.
and just look and go, how about this? And then Bill Burr kind of does it now too. He'll put notes on stage
Yeah.
and he'll tell people, he goes, look, here's the deal. I'm working on some shit.
Mm.
So it's kind of a workshop. He goes,
Yeah,
"So
yeah.
you're
It's
gonna
no
watch it?"
longer we're not gonna hide it anymore. It's like
Yeah, and
fuck
it's
it,
not, but he
yeah,
doesn't
like,
charge the people,
yeah.
$80 or whatever. But he'll
Yeah.
come up and go and put out cards and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's you don't have enough of those anymore because you need time. You
Yeah.
can't 3 minutes isn't enough. 5 minutes isn't enough for a working professional
Yeah.
to go up and work on stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not. So I'm hoping I'm gonna try this thing on the 13th and see if it works
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And if it does it, and I can do more of them, I'll do more of them because, like I said, I bring in other guys that are working professionals that I
Yeah.
know. Like a guy like you that's working on new shit for 10 minutes is gonna be funnier than a brand new comic
Yeah,
for
yeah.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I get that they have their own crowd and their own buddies, and I understand because I remember when I was an open micer.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't understand it's just the process is different.
And
now. They
that
all have
should
their
be
phones and-
because you'll go to open mics and the open micers are not even watching. They're
Right.
looking down or on their phone. They're walking around, and that's the type of place. If you're a real open micer, you go to watch
yeah,
professionals kind of working, doing their work set, kind of
Right.
working out. You know, that's real valuable. Like a lot of these new comics don't understand how much you learn from watching
Yeah.
professionals.
Well, I've mentioned it on the show too. Like when I'm on the road, the clubs I'll do, they always have like there's like Tuesday or Wednesday will be the open mic,
Yeah.
and then I close the show for 30 or whatever. But then I will do the close the show and I'll get off, and all those kids will be gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I mean, I don't care if you stay, but when I was them, I watched everybody.
Yeah.
Like I would go in, I would do my set and watch. I'd stay and watch open mics all night.
Yeah.
I'd sit at the Comedy Store all night, or if a pro, especially if a pro went on,
Yeah.
I watched them every time because they obviously knew something I didn't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because sometimes I remember one time a guy, this was like a couple of years ago, and I did some stupid. Sometimes my opening joke would just be a random stupid thing. So I said, "Hey, I'm not here for con. I'm just here for your talk about your car's extended warranty." You know, one of those references.
Right.
You know, I got a little quick laugh, and then I start my set. So then the next show, the host, who was like the open mic guy, he was hosting the comedy. And he goes, "Your next act is not here for comedy. He's here for your extended cars." And I go, "Dude, that's my
take my opening. What are you doing?"
And it wasn't like he stole it for himself. He did it as my intro.
Yeah,
and I go,
right. And you're like,
like they have no clue. Like,
yeah. And now you just killed my opening, my whole approach.
You know, it's just funny how nobody tells. I go, "No, you can't do that. If you want my intro, do my intro. Don't be taking one of my jokes." And
right.
I go, "It was just a throwaway joke, so I didn't really care." But I go, at the same time, it was.
Well, you know what he did was he took a laugh away from
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know, a quick, easy laugh. You know, because that quick, easy laugh at the beginning is always good.
Yeah.
They kind of break the ice thing.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Just a throwaway joke to break the ice. But
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these guys are just.
Well, I'll do that. I mean, I'll do that here. I do that now in a ship.
Yeah.
As you know, it's because after you're here, you're here for a week. These people have seen you so many times. You know who they are. So when you walk up on stage, you can call back a joke from 5 days earlier.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy in the front row, and you go, "Hey, how was the snorkeling?" And you maybe get a laugh. You know what I mean? You never know. So, but anything like that right away just breaks the ice and works.
Yeah. I had the people probably would know on Carnival we have a host, but he's not a comedian or she.
Yeah.
But so, sometimes they want to be. And one guy did similar. He did my joke, not even for my intro. He just did it before me, and I go, "That's my joke," and it was about Mexicans in California. And he goes, "Well, I'm a Mexican who lives." He goes, "It fits me." And I said, "Well, you can't steal."
You don't just take a joke.
Yeah, especially when I'm about to do that joke.
Right.
Like it's like people don't understand the unwritten laws of comedy. You don't just fucking take a joke.
Well, these guys in the ships don't.
Yeah.
Well, these cruise directors used to steal stuff.
Oh yeah, I've
had
had that. Yeah.
I've heard that happen a ton of times.
Yeah.
But I've seen a comedy host do a whole bit from like a Russ Nagel bit.
Yeah.
Like Russ Nagel does a bit about getting pulled over for drinking. I don't know if you've ever seen it or whatever. It's funny, but he's about rolling down the window. But the whole point of the bit is you get pulled over and you realize, and you slowly reach up and grab your seatbelt and slowly buckle yourself in because the cop's walking up. And the way he does it is great. He does it really well. It's very funny. But I saw a guy, a host, do it one day, and he came off stage after that night. "Hey, was Nagel here last week?" And he goes, "No, why?" I go, "I'm just wondering."
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just take our jokes and do them.
No, no, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I had a guy one time back in the 90s. I used to meet a lot of women on the computer, like a lot, like so much that I did a taping at Caroline's. I brought 70 women from online, so it's kind of like how I can meet women, but at the same time they can come to my my show.
So you used, was it a dating site?
Oh, it was AOL, like the Love AOL, the chat rooms,
you
and
used the dating site for your bringer.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was great. Because I would do material in the chat rooms, and then I was flirting, but at the same time I was doing material. So then I'd work on my heckler lines because you always have the guys giving you shit, and then
the old news groups, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would. So that's how I would. It was kind of like an open mic because I was doing material, but I had all these women come. 70 people came to see me. It was a taping. So, but the problem was I did jokes about meeting women on the computer as part of my set, and they thought I was talking about them. So a couple girls started heckling me, ruined the whole tape, and then of course they saw each other afterwards. They started arguing. I was like, "Oh shit, that was a bad." It sounded good at the time. I'm like, "Oh."
I thought I had this figured out.
Yeah, but I had a guy. So anyway, I had all these jokes about meeting women on a computer and cyber sex, and it. I used to, you know, it was doing well, and then I put it at the beginning, and I couldn't follow it, you know, myself, so I had to. It became my closer, and then all of a sudden, so I'm like, wow, I got this great closer. It's you know, it's kind of sexual, but it was like a 5 minute closer.
Right.
And a guy came up to me. He goes, "Hey, I've been doing your bit about the computers and me, you know," and I, you know, I thought he was joking. And he goes, "No, no, no, I've been adding to it. I've been adding, so you know, you can use these tags." I go, "Oh, are you serious?" He goes, "No, no, I did it in Connecticut. I did it in Massachusetts. Yeah, yeah, it's been working. No, no, I've been adding. I added this." I go, "No, you can't do it." He goes, "No, no, I'm." Like he thought it was helping me because he added like
But he actually took the bed and he was doing it on
yeah,
the road.
yeah, yeah. I
We,
mean, it was like a maybe like a little above an open micer, you know, but I had to tell him you can't do that. Do not. Well, I don't know. Like he thought he was helping me. Like he was excited to tell me, you know, like
I don't. There was a. I don't. Yeah, I don't understand. There was a guy. I can't remember his name. This happened years ago. But it was a bit. I used to close with a bit about a menage a trois. God, it's a really long time ago. And I was playing the Peoria in Peoria. There's a place called the Jukebox.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I used to play it all the time. A guy named Lenny C used to run it. He passed away years ago. But he called me one day on the phone. He was like, "Hey, this guy is doing your closer."
Mm.
And I go, "Who?" And I can't remember the comic's name. And he was coming to Zany's a few weeks later, and I was in Chicago at the time. So I go into Chicago, and I saw him in the green room. We're talking before the green room. I go, "Hey," I didn't say anything to him. But then he goes up and he's featuring. He goes up on stage and does the bit in front of me while I'm there.
Oh man.
So now I'm like, I go, and it's a pretty distinct bit. It's a
Yeah.
long bit. You know what I mean? It's like you can always tell when somebody steals a bit when they use the same pauses and the
Yeah.
same inflections, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just that they're copying what you're doing. And so after I saw him do it, I almost didn't know how to approach it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So then I talked to him afterwards. Like, "Hey man, uh, that's my bit." And we talked about it for a while, and he felt terrible, and he apologized. And I don't know if he was serious. I don't know if he was fucking with me. I don't know what it was, but he knew I was there. I wanted him to see me beforehand,
Yeah.
you know. But then when he did the bit and I was in the room, I was thrown. I was like, "Oh my god, this
Yeah.
guy must be either clueless or doesn't give a fuck,"
Yeah.
you know. So, but I told him, but he apologized. Said he would never do it again, and I never heard that he ever did it again. So
Yeah.
maybe he just picked it up and
No, I know
you
it's like 'cause I had a guy. One of the computer bits I used to do was about cyber sex, and I work with this guy, and then people are telling me he's doing your bit, but he changed it from cyber sex to sexting. Same long bit, but it's sexting.
right.
And you know, I'm not a confrontational guy. So one time I'm in the city and I do a spot before him, and I see him, so I do his version of my bit in front of him. And then I heard, yeah, he's no longer doing. Like he kind of
really?
got the clue. Like,
Oh, he figured it out.
so-
Really?
because
That's
mine was kind of older, you know, like people
that's a
aren't.
great way to handle it.
Yeah, so it kind of like he must have got the clue, like, yeah. Because we did I know he saw me do. He might have subconsciously done it,
Yeah.
but I mean, I one time I had. This is a funny story. So when I go to my parents, you know, you have comedians have the old box of the receipts and you write the jokes. So about 20 something years ago, I had there was like a Chinese restaurant. I had a receipt across from the club, and I had all these jokes about the Chinese restaurant. Then I had, you know, jokes about the neighborhood or whatever. And then 20 years go by. I go to my parents, and I'm going through the notes, and at that point I'm lazy. I'm not. I see my old jokes, and I say, oh, maybe I can use this, bring this on a cruise ship or whatever. So rather than write it, I would take pictures of them because I don't feel like rewriting. So I just take a
Right.
picture and
That's
picture,
kinda
picture.
that's
So I
good.
took a picture.
I'm lazy
of all-
too. That's a great idea, actually.
So cut to now I'm working this club in Pennsylvania, and I hit up we're co-headlining to audition the headline. So I hit up the other guy, and he was kind of like an impressionist. I don't even remember who his name is, but anyway, he goes, "Hey, I saw one of your videos online, got a lot of views, and you know, he was complimentary." I said, "Oh, that's real nice," you know. So I said, "Okay, looking forward to working with you." And then we get to the gig. The MC is my friend from Long Island, so he goes up, does real well. Then I go up, and this is the old club that I used to MC at. You know, like I said, like 20 years ago, and I had the Chinese restaurant across. So I did the jokes that you know, and and then the other guy went on after me, you know, at the co-headliner, and he did the exact same joke after I already did it, which is really weird.
Yeah.
Because I already did. He didn't watch me, so he did it. And he goes, it usually gets a laugh. That joke usually gets a laugh. And I said, well, yeah, you didn't watch. I fucking did it already. So,
Right.
so the MC's like, what the hell? That's your old bit. That's from way back. And I said, oh, whatever. So I just kind of didn't pay any attention. And then the owner's son was running the room, and the owner's son knew that guy more than me. So he goes, oh, Tim stole that bit, his bullshit, and said,
Oh, no way.
so the guy came over to me, the other guy, and started arguing with me. He goes, hey, you did my bit before, like, because he didn't watch. He goes, you did my bit? And I said, how long you been doing the bit for? Oh, he goes, oh, well, about 5 years. I go, well, that's interesting. And I have the MC right next to me. I go, I have a picture of the receipt from 99 when I have it written on there. And he goes, oh,
Really? That's hilarious.
So then he's apologetic, like he goes, oh, it must have, an accident, whatever, okay, or whatever. And he was trying to help me get gigs, and I go, don't worry about it, just, he's an impressionist, he's not a, that's the other thing. I go, all of a sudden he's got a written joke.
Yeah, right, you got a joke all of a sudden.
So I don't think nothing of it, and he's messaging me on, hey, I can get you a gig, trying to be nice now. And then I look at the top of the message, and it says, hey, I saw your video. You got a lot of views. That was the first joke on that video, was that bit.
Oh, no way. Was it really?
So I go, oh, that's what it was. You catch people in weird things,
Yeah, they try to slide it by you, man.
Yeah. But that's, even like we were talking about hecklers. I had, there was a bar, it's the truth, there's a bar called Hecklers in Long Island at one
What
time.
a terrible name for a
They go, hey, let's have a comedy show.
Yeah.
I know they have them in Canada. They have a lot of places called Heckler. And sure enough, and I was known as the kid with all the heckler lines. Like I remember working with, you would know, Lisa Lampanelli.
Yeah.
And she was featuring, I was MC. We did like a Knights of Columbus, and it was all guys, and they were heckling the shit out of us. And she got mad at me because I did all the heckler lines. And, and she goes, save some for me, you fuck. So I had a book, and I had all the lines. So comics used to steal my book, and
Right, take the lines.
But back then I had a good memory. I can remember it. So because I used to work, I mentioned to you, there's a guy Otto and George,
Yeah.
and he had biker following, and they would heckle the shit out of you. But so I'm doing this place hecklers, and it was you get a lot of drunken cops, and they can heckle pretty bad, a bunch of those guys. And
Dude,
then
how you gonna handle a drunken cop?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and they, I had a couple where they threatened me.
Yeah,
but
you push them the wrong way. And
yeah. I had one guy, and it's funny because they were heckling the comics, and then I went on, and they were heckling me, and I was ripping everybody because I had all the heckler lines, and I'm ripping them hard, and it went from like 10 hecklers to 5 to 3, and then it was one guy, and he just kept bothering me, and I was running out of lines. So now I'm like, shit, I'm running out, so for some reason I couldn't think of anything. So I said, why don't you go home and get your sister pregnant again? I don't know why I just said it. It just came out. And that was the trigger that afterwards the guy picked me up and threw me against the wall and wanted to hit me. And when somebody's so mad that they start almost crying.
Yeah.
Like, hey, talking about, hey,
yeah.
And they're holding his arm so he doesn't hit me. And like that was, of all the things I said, 40 heckler lines about, dad should have pulled out early, all this stuff. But once I talked about his sister,
Right.
that was the trigger. And
all right, dude. Let's wrap this up, man. We're at about an hour, man. Do me a favor. If you have any socials or anything like that, right into the camera, man. What do you got?
Tim Homayoon. So good luck spelling it. My website's Tim Who. It's kind of old. Still got my MySpace link on there, I think. So it's a little old. But Homayoon, HOMAYOON. Good luck with that. Tim Who is the website.
I put it on the board too. So
okay, check it out.
It's correct, dude. Thank you. All right, we're good, man. Dude, thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll see you next week.
You got it. Thank you.